Hi, everyone. It is Becky from the Teach Better team, and I am so excited to be here today. I am just back from a few days away, and I am honored to be here with two very, very special women. Jennifer Appel, who is also part of our Teach Better team, and the fabulous Traci Browder. Good morning, ladies, or afternoon. Actually, it's afternoon for me. I guess
it's morning for me, so I'll say morning.
Since we're all representing
midday
of the U.S. I'm in New Jersey. Jennifer, you're in Washington State, and Traci is in Texas. So we are here for a very special reason, and I'm so excited to talk about this book. I'm very fortunate that I got to preview it, and it's near and dear to my heart. And it is written by Jennifer. So Jennifer, why don't you start by telling us the name of the book and what it is based off of?
Yeah, so it's called Award-Winning Dog, and it's kind of based on my dog, Maya. It's kind of her life and her story, and she had some struggles, when she was a puppy. And so it kind of like talks about those, and then she kind of works through it, relates really well to Hans's book, Award-Winning Culture. And she kind of answers the 3 questions that are in that book about character, excellence, and community. And so she kind of goes through her own personal growth, I guess you would say, of like who she is and what she wants the world to see, and that she is an amazing dog, even though she might not be like everybody else, and it's okay. So that's kind of the summary of it.
I love this book for many reasons. I'm a dog person to start. And as I told you earlier, my first dog that I had on my own was a Sheltie. And the star of the show here is a Sheltie.
That was awesome. Well, and Sheltie people are a certain type of people, right? Like we kind of, like I see people, I'm like, oh, you have a Sheltie. I'm like, you have one at home. I can tell, like we know each other. It's like you see each other and you're like, oh, I can tell. Like you're a Sheltie person.
Now, can you tell us, Jennifer, because the dog's name is Maya, can you give us a little history on where Maya got her name?
Yeah, she actually was named after Maya Angelou. And I saw Maya Angelou live. It was about 10 years ago. It was on Mother's Day. And it was this like room full of women. It was like the coolest thing I've ever seen. She was doing this tour, and she was basically just talking to, just kind of a lecture tour. And she talked for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours almost. And it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've read every single one of her books, all of her poems. Like, she's just an inspiring person. And I just respected her so much and everything that she taught me. And I think all of those things, now that we're in a pandemic, now that we have kind of racial injustice, like being brought up and like, hey, you guys need to, I think that Maya Angelou, like everything that she said is like resonating in my brain going, yeah, like this should be happening, and this should have been happening 10 years ago when she spoke. And, it's frustrating that, we're still in that place, but I think I wanted to honor her in some way. I don't have human children, so I named my puppy after her.
And you even put the quote in the book, which is at the end of the book, which is so nice and so special and so appropriate. Now, Traci, you teach kindergarten in Texas, correct?
I do. I'm a proud, happy kindergarten teacher, and this book is just going to be perfect for the littles, and not even just the littles. I mean, I really see it being used across all grade levels, but I'm really excited about using it in my classroom and in the elementary setting, because kids have such a need, this desire to want to fit in, to want to be like everybody else, to want to be accepted. And that desire sometimes overrides all other logic. And so that's why I'm really glad to be able to have this book, because, as educators, it's up to us to really get kids to see that they are beautiful. They don't need to follow the pack. They can be the best version of themselves. So this book is just so perfect in so many ways. Like Jennifer said, the time we're living in, but also, I want to add another twist, the social media age, where everything is made to look pretty and made to look awesome and great. And that's what our kids, that's what they look to. That's what they see. Everything's got to be polished and pretty, and everybody's doing something fun together on social media. So I almost want to say, what have we created? So that's the beauty. It's all of those reasons why I see this book being so valuable, because it digs to the core of self-esteem, confidence, and just being comfortable with who we are.
I have to tell you, when I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, I kind of needed this reminder as an adult, because it's kind of your automatic instinct, right? To compare yourself to other people and look what they're doing and I can't do that, or look what they've done and I wish I could do that. And you forget that which is a big message of the book, is that, focus on what you can do and what your strengths are. And you do have things to offer the world. And you're right. I mean, like I said, if we need that message as adults, you really know that children, and particularly at the elementary level, I mean, I teach fifth grade, but I think even fifth grade students obviously could take away a message for that. And I know this past year, I really made it a point to, because I actually do teach health as part of my responsibilities too. And so I took a lot of the health lessons and made them more about character education and focusing on kindness and service to others, and being more empathetic. And that's a big takeaway from this book. Welcome to all of our watchers who are joining us. We say good morning to all of you. Some of the names I can see. I see Livia and Bree and Jillian. So welcome, everybody. And please jump in if you have questions for Jennifer about the book, or certainly for Traci or myself. We'd love to hear from you this morning. Jennifer, when did you first get your inspiration to come up with this book? And how long has it been kind of in the making?
That's kind of funny, because from when I was a kid, I struggled with reading. I have dyslexia. So I had a really hard time as a child with like reading and everything like that. I was kind of had a complex about it. Like, I can't read, but I love to read. So I would read all the time, but I always wanted to write a children's book. I love children's literature. I love picture books. And so since I was a little kid, that was like a dream of mine to be able to do. And the funny thing is it's just never come to fruition until it really was when COVID hit. We've been, Hans and I go for a walk every single day, and we went for a walk one day and I said, I have this idea. And we basically in an hour walk talked out the whole book. I had my phone and I had the little speak, into, and so I was talking the whole idea of the book, came home, typed out the entire thing, storyboarded. It was a book within a week. It was crazy. It just, that hits all of a sudden, it's just that creative idea comes and it just comes and it's just going. And so, and then we're and then the second book could be this. And so now we've got 5 books planned out, because we're and this could be, and we can do, you know what I mean? So it was awesome. Yeah, it was a lifetime of wanting to do it, but the idea came actually kind of quickly, which is strange, but also makes sense when, when you think about kids like that, all of a sudden they come with an idea and you're if you don't tell them to go with it, they need to be able to go and run with it and go, and they will create something amazing.
You're lucky that you were walking when that happened. I usually get my best ideas in the shower, and clearly I cannot be recording.
Right.
So I'm glad
I would take my phone in with me, so then when I'm done, I hop out and I go talking to her real quick.
Jennifer, you said a minute ago when you were saying about your childhood, I have a journal open in front of me that I just kind of jotted down some of my thoughts about the book and the ways it resonates with me. And it's so funny what you said. Well, not funny, but ironic what you said, because as a classroom teacher in kindergarten, and all the way up through 6th grade, but a lot of what I'm about to share with you, I've actually seen in kindergarten. Selective mutism, dyslexia, depression, bipolarism, oppositional defiance disorder, multiple personalities, all that have gone through my class alone in the past several years. And not only that, the kid who's exceptionally gifted, or the kid who it takes a little longer for things to click, and they know that, and then they start feeling bad, or the kid who's just really, really smart and then starts to like dim his or her light because they don't want to always get things quickly and then realize other people are, having feelings about that. So it covers like reading the book and turning each page. I'm making so many connections and I'm seeing faces of my students as I turn the pages. So I know like Hans is a counselor. I see this book being used seriously in small groups, intimate settings, whole group, and we're building those relationships with our kids and we're connecting with them. Even if I need to sit like 2 or 3 kids or one-on-one, I mean, because I do that in my classroom, this book really, really speaks to each child with whatever they're going through. And even if they're not going through anything, the other beauty about kindergarten and elementary is we're laying that foundation. So this is such a positive source to lay the foundation of be comfortable with who you are. And I wrote this down and it's really powerful to me that admiration is different from imitation. And I feel like that's what Maya was struggling with, was trying to be like, oh, I can be like this, I can be like this, I can be like this. But when you admire somebody, you're looking for, you're setting goals. There becomes the mentor relationship. You're looking up to someone to make yourself better instead of focusing on being just like that person. And then we're no longer true to ourselves. So it really lays a good foundation in so many ways. So those are just some of the reasons why I'm really, really excited to get this book in my hands, and not only in my hands, but just in the hands of all educators, to just pour into kids and get them to realize that you are okay just the way you are, just the way you were made, so perfectly just for you.
Thank you. That's like the highest compliment, Traci. I love all the things that you said because, I think that's all of us have struggled. Like Becky, you said, like I needed this book to read as like an adult. Like we've all struggled with, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not loud enough, and that's the 3 kind of characters that she encounters that she thinks, oh, I need to be like this. It's like, those are the things we tend to recognize in school. Yeah. We tend to recognize the kids that are the extroverts, the kids that are the athletic, the kids that are and so it's like, no, everybody has amazing qualities that we need to recognize and not just the things that are outwardly, apparent to everyone. So then we don't compare ourselves to that because we all have those insecurities. Like you said, I mean, especially in elementary school, but middle school, it gets even worse. Like, I mean, poor kids, like, you have kids about that age, Traci, like you and Becky both know, like, I mean, it gets tough as you get into those teen years and seeing everybody looking perfect and, oh, I want that and this. And, it's really hard. That comparison game is really hard to deal with.
What stood out to me too was, the pages where all of the little doubtful messages are coming in, like and they're kind of all around because, when you think about it, like that's kind of how your brain operates in general. Like we said, whether you're an adult or a kid, where you start to, these messages start to spiral out of control and, you get all of the self-doubt talk. And it kind of highlights that, like that's what's actually happening. We have a lot of people who are interested in the book, which is fabulous. Bree, thank you. She also said, by the way, there are shower paper pads for ideas. So Bree is trying to hook me up.
Is that really such a thing?
Jillian wants to know, she said, this sounds like a great book. Can it be used as a mentor text to teach various writing and reading traits?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Caitlin and I were talking about that the other day. She was saying she was definitely use it. One of the things we talked about was inference. I don't know if you guys kind of saw that you could make inferences based on, you can kind of, I wouldn't encourage you to cut apart my book, but I do this all the time. I cut off the binding of a book, and I lay out all the pages. And so you can give the pages like to different kids, like middle school. I do that all the time. And I'll kind of cut apart a book and then they can make inferences based on what this one situation is. And for this book, it'd actually be kind of cool to pull it out of context, like something bad happening to her. Let's pull it out of context. What do you see here happening? And then let's put it back into the story and go, oh, that's where this is headed. You know what I mean? But you can make those inferences. Absolutely. You can teach a lot of great skills in middle school, like pulling the book apart and really looking at it.
I can't wait to get the hard copy because my well, now third grade daughter loves these books. She loves these kind of books, and she will read them over and over again. And I even saw her with a children's book. She was doing a Flipgrid video in the spring when they were, when we were all remote learning. And so she loves to get her hands on these and read them. So I didn't show her, my preview of the book yet, because I can't wait to, for her to see it and get her hands on it. And then she ends up telling all her friends. She's like her little PR committee.
I love it. I'll have to give her commission for, yeah.
So, something else to go along. Oh, were you going to read another comment, Becky, real quick?
Nope, go ahead.
There's a certain part of the book that there's so many of my favorite parts, but one part that really, really resonates with me is that I called it the plot twist, or really the turning point. It's not so much a plot twist, but the turning point where those three friends come into play. Those three friends who hop in on her journey and kind of say, hey, whoa, and really help her think through and walk through that journey of self-awareness that, wait, I am a good person. Good dog. I have all these great qualities and characteristics, and you can really see the epiphanies and the awareness evolve really in real time. So that part really excites me. And there's so many components about friendship, acceptance, celebration of every single person, from the quiet person, like you said a minute ago, to the person who's really outgoing. And that quiet person, let's learn about that person. Let's celebrate the gifts. The quiet person sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, and that doesn't have to be the case. So it really teaches a class ownership to really care for each other and to truly see each individual in the classroom. And the other piece, we do a lot of partnering and spending time with other grade levels throughout the school year. So fourth grade comes and hangs out in our classroom. Second grade comes and hangs out. We go and hang out in their classroom. And I say hang out, we're actually experiencing and just getting lost in books together. So a lot of kindergartners surprisingly can read like level 28 books. So they're reading to fourth graders and shocking them, and the fourth graders are reading to them. So this book had, if other schools would think outside of the box and connect grade levels and start really building those relationships, be intentional about it, not just see each other in passing, but now we're taking the book to a completely different level where we're engaging and building that mentorship that we talked about a minute ago, based on the concepts taught in the book. So there's some strategic things that could happen with this book, Jennifer, that I'm just so excited about. And I hope that as listeners and viewers get the book, that they can come back to you and teach better and on your feed and celebrate the different ways that they're using the book and how it's being a game changer for kids' lives.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'd love to see how people are using it, because I think of certain ways to use it because I'm an ELA teacher. I'm a reading specialist. Like, that's how my brain works. But I would love to see how people are using it. I think the other thing, Traci, on our website as well is awardwinningculture.com. Somebody asked about that. You can get the book, but there's also free lesson plans. And I was just thinking while you were talking, Traci, one of the lesson plans I created is an empathy lesson. And so basically the students, like, if you're actually live, so if you have your fourth grader, you could do it on Zoom too. But your fourth grader and your kindergartner, this would be a great activity for them to do. They actually sit across from each other like they're doing counseling, and they tell a story. And then the other person, like, they basically stand up and switch seats. And then that person retells exactly their story in their personality and their feelings and their emotions. And so they really understand like what it's like to be in their shoes. And so with a fourth grader in kindergarten, that would be such a fun activity to do. Like, read the book, and then you could do that activity with them, and they could really show them, like, maybe the fourth grader could do it first to kind of show an example, and then the kindergartner could do it. Like, oh, I think that would be amazing, because they could teach them so much about that.
Well, guess who's going to try it?
Well, and particularly with everything that's been going on, and we've talked about this. I mean, these kinds of lessons, they've always been important, but they're really going to have to come to the forefront even more for every teacher, not just one or two teachers, but for every teacher. They're going to have to incorporate, more of these kinds of lessons and involve more, social emotional learning and things like that. So I think that this book is perfect for that. So the timing in that regard really couldn't be better. Jennifer, can you talk to us all about also about like some of the other characters in the book, and what were your inspiration for some of the other characters in the book?
Yeah, it's funny. A few people have said who their favorite. I'll be curious. You guys think about who your favorite character was, because a few people have said this week who their favorite character was in the book. So I'm curious about you guys. But yeah, so Maya's the star. She's my dog currently. And then all the other dogs in there are dogs that I've known or had in my life. So Ginger and Sammy are actually my first two Shelties that were in my family. Alta is one of Maya's friends that she goes and visits. So it's actually somebody that she knows. And then the rabbit, the duck, and the squirrel, we're very lucky. We live in a beautiful place. So we have lots of like ponds, and we live near a golf course. And so there's like rabbits and squirrel, everybody like running around in the golf course all the time. So she actually sees those animals every single day on her walk. So she actually interacts with them on a daily basis. And honestly, like most of the books, like the cover, this is our path we walk on every single, like I gave him a picture of the path. This looks exactly like it. Like,
wow.
This is where, like, I gave him a picture of the path. I'm like, the shrubs are here, like they're the same height. Like, it's crazy. Herb did such an amazing job in the illustrations. Like, I gave him real pictures of like the pond. Like, if you guys know that, when the friends came in, Gracie, you're talking about, like, they're all real places that we go, which is, for me is super fun. Like, other people don't necessarily like know all the places, but like my family that see it, like, oh, that's the pond, and that's the, they can see
that's
all the
fun
too.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I also like the fact that you included some of the vocabulary at the end, so that, if there were, words that especially the little kids might not, understand what those meant. It was a good, it's a good vocabulary lesson too.
And let me add to that too, Jennifer, tell us about, I know throughout the book, there were words that were highlighted or bolded or red. How can teachers use the book with the things that you kind of help to bring to the forefront?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do have, like I said, there's 3 lesson plans, one for each of those concepts. So empathy, kindness, and service, I actually have lesson plans for those 3 concepts. And so the empathy lesson is the one I was talking to you about, where the kids kind of pair up. The kindness lesson is they kind of get a definition of kindness, and then they actually make inferences based on pictures from the book, like how is Maya showing kindness? What is she doing specifically? And then they give examples of how they're doing it. And there's a definition of kindness to kind of talk about it. And then service. There's a whole lesson on service, and there's a little activity that goes with it. So there's actually 3 lesson plans that like lay out exactly like, how do you teach these concepts? And we were talking about this last night on the after show with Mastery Chat. We were talking about like kindness, empathy. These are hard concepts to teach. Mm-hmm. Like, people always call these soft skills. They're not. Yeah. Like, kindness is not nice. Like, those are 2 different words. And I think we sometimes confuse them. Yeah. And kindness is a really hard thing to learn, that it takes us a lot of our lifetime sometimes to learn that. So starting in like kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, like learning what does kindness mean? Sometimes it's kind to tell someone they're wrong. Like, that's okay. That's being kind. That's not, you don't always have to be nice. Like, there's kindness is a whole different thing. So I think explaining that concept to kids at a very young age, and this is a difficult thing. This isn't easy. It's not easy to be kind, to be that proactive and really go out of your way. Like, this is a difficult concept. Having empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is a totally different thing. So understanding empathy is like where their perspective is, and respecting that, but also maybe not agreeing, those kinds of things. So I think that's a really difficult concept that I hope that we can teach them a little bit at a young age. You know what I mean?
Well, and also show how in certain respects they're related, or kind of one feeds off of the other too. So there is, even though they are separate ideas, there is a connection between them.
Absolutely.
And I think we have to be intentional from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade to not get so caught up in, I have to get these kids ready for a test, or I have to get these kids ready for this or that. We have to get them ready for how to be okay with themselves and interact with other people. So I love what you said about just truly, and I was in the after chat on after Mastery Chat. And so it was a great conversation, but just really getting kids to understand kindness comes from the heart. Kindness is selfless. And like we're sitting here right now, and Jennifer, when you were talking, or Becky, when you're talking, I mean, I am truly listening to every word you're saying. I'm not focused on what I want to say. And so if we take that same skill into how we interact with each other all the time, that kindness, that selflessness, so many different ways that we can do that. But I feel like as educators, we have to model that. We've got a perfect resource in Maya, the award-winning dog. We have so many resources to help get that message across, but we have to be intentional about it too. So I hope that as you continue to engage with educators, that's one thing that they keep at the forefront, is that intentionality piece. And I think this book will help us remember to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and intentionality is like haunts this whole book. Like that's what he talks about, like in the whole book. I mean, that's really what it is. It's intentionally teaching these skills. It's as a reading specialist, it's like by the time they get to 6th grade, oh, they know how to read. Like now they start reading for content, that kind of stuff. And that's been the misconception. It's like, no. Like I point out to these kids, well, how are you making a connection here? And they're like, oh, I guess I haven't really thought about it, because you're a proficient reader at that point by the time you're in 6th grade. And so you don't think about those things. So then when you point it out and then it becomes intentional, it's like, oh, I get it. If I make this connection, I can read so much more and I can comprehend and I can ask questions, but I'm not always aware of it. So it's that same thing. It's those soft skills are the new hard skills. Like they're the skills that we have to be teaching. And Traci, my biggest pet peeve, I'm middle school now. So my biggest pet peeve is we're always getting them ready for the next grade level.
Yeah.
Like not just we're ready for the test, but we're always getting them ready for the next grade level. Like my job as a 6th grade teacher is getting ready for 7th grade, because, well, they need that for high school. Well, they need that for college. I'm like, yeah, but when are they going to use that in life? Like, that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like they're going to use that in school, but when is that going to come out in life? So I think we can shift what we're doing sometimes if we really think about, like, what are the key concepts I need to teach here? You know what I mean?
I mean, I find that as a math and science teacher, that a lot of teachers that are very subject specific feel that components like teaching kindness and empathy are not really their job. My job is to teach math and science. And it's like, yes, that's part of it, but that's not the whole picture. And so, over the past couple of years, as I said, I've been much more intentional about trying to pull it. You can do it through math and through science. You can teach kindness, believe it or not, and you can teach service, and you can teach empathy. You have to be strategic in how you do it. It's not necessarily the most natural fit, but you can definitely do it. And I think that more people have to kind of be open to that concept as well. And that is what's nice about the book too. What I also enjoy is that it really is for kids of all age levels can somehow relate to the book. It's not, even though it's called a children's book, it's not, for little kids. I mean, kids up through, middle school, and you could probably even tie it into some high school lessons, can appreciate elements of the book.
It's funny you say that, because I've dealt with kids in some way or another in all grade levels up to 12th grade. And honestly, to me, the best teacher is the teacher who sees. So let's take a 12th grader, for instance. Yes, they're a 12th grader. Yes, they might be 17 or 18, but they're not an adult yet. That there's still room to mold and grow children. And I think we forget that sometimes when kids get in middle school, junior school, high school, it becomes this rigidity that sometimes I believe students are truly thirsty to be molded, to be taught, to be engaged in the social skills. And I feel like that's not really at the forefront like it should be when we transition to the older grades. So, I'm going to be real honest. If I were teaching 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I'm I'm that teacher that would have this book and wouldn't be afraid. And initially the kids would be like, oh, this is a children's book. But the more we present a variety of texts to our children, what are we teaching them? An appreciation for literature, and that they can get something out of every book, no matter what the genre, no matter what it looks like. And once you open the cover and really start digging in, like as I was reading, I'm making connections. I'm like, oh, this is speaking to me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't a 7th grader, 8th grader, 9th grader do the same thing? So, I implore older grade level teachers to take that bold step and use this book and watch what happens.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Tracy, it's, Teach Better kind of sponsored the book, their little logos on the back and stuff. And I'm so honored that they did that, because I feel like all of the things you said is what we're doing as adults, right? Like, I'm not done learning. I'm not done being molded. Like, I'm 43 years old and I'm not done yet. Like, I've still got work to do. So, I mean, to say that a 17 or 18-year-old, like, they're good people that say that, it's like, no, I'm not good yet. Like, I'm still learning and growing. And like, I mean, that's why Teach Better exists, is to help people learn and grow. Right. And so I think that's a piece that even as adults, like, if you're still a learner yourself, like, why would you ever think kids are there? Like, we're still learning and growing. So everybody is.
Yeah, I told Tracy a couple weeks ago when I was on her podcast, which, by the way, for those of you who are listening or watching, if you have not listened to Intentionality, the podcast by Traci Browder, you are missing out. So you definitely need to take a listen. And I said to Tracy, Tracy, your voice is so soothing to me that I'm now thinking what I want Tracy to do is I want her to do a recorded read aloud of the book and play it for me, because I said, when I have trouble sleeping, I think I should call up Tracy and say, could you read me? I just listen to the recording of the story, because she really does have this great voice.
That's funny, Becky.
She's got that good elementary teacher voice, doesn't it? Like, you and I have like the loud, like, yeah, I've got the, like, I can scream at 96th graders voice, and like, she's got like the nice, lovely, like, elementary voice. You're like, oh, that's so nice for like kindergarten. Yeah.
Well, it was wonderful to connect again with you ladies. And again, if you are looking to get Jennifer's book, it is now on sale on Amazon, or you can go to awardwinningculture.com and get the book. And I'm going to awardwinningculture.com, Jennifer, because I want a signed copy of the book. So.
Yeah, Maya will sign the book for you. So if you want a signed copy from Maya, which, I'll sign it too, but no one cares about my signature. They want Maya's. So she'll sign it for you and send you some stickers and some fun things. So yeah, you can get that. And the lesson plans are on the website too. They're free. So you can download those. And then the other cool thing that, Tracy, you might like this too, for especially like the kinder. I know my 6th graders are going to love this because they know Maya, but there's a little video of Maya on the website too. And it's just like different pictures of her and like her little life. And so I know kids, like my kids love seeing pictures of Maya and what she's doing in her adventure. So I think that would be fun too for the kids. Like, here's a little video preview of like, this is the dog we're talking about. And then you can read the book.
Well, it's a great way. Kids love animals, Yeah. Again, how old the child is or what their background is, kids love animals. So that's a nice connection too. And it's based off of a real dog. So that's awesome. Yeah. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today and talking about this. A lot of great discussion. Thank you all for watching and listening, and we will see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Jennifer.
Thank you.